All right, this is Joey with the Dayton Business Podcast, and today I get a treat to interview someone that I've had some experience with on the mission field, but also locally. He's just an awesome guy, and his name is Jeff Battles. Jeff, say hi to the people.
Hello, everybody. Good to see you all. Hopefully you can see me at least.
So Jeff he owns a business here in the Dayton area and services the Dayton area. And his business is called the Covenant Roofing Co.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Awesome. So go ahead, Jeff. Tell me about yourself and tell us what you do.
Yeah. Well, we started a Covenant Roofing Company a few years back. You know, as we all went on a mission trip together, and every single business owner that went on the trip was in roofing. And so at the time I was flipping homes, and I realized that things were changing in that industry. And in order to keep doing what we did globally and serving across the world, we had to make a shift and adjustment. So we got into the industry. We started learning the industry from actually some of y'all that went on the trip. And it's been a huge blessing, you know, since that time to learn from some of the best in the industry. It's allowed us to be able to start a company with integrity and head in the right direction. So it's been awesome. Yeah.
Nice. And so what is your background? Where are you from?
Yeah, so I'm originally from Pennsylvania. I moved out here in 1997 after I graduated. And it's just been a journey. I've been an entrepreneur ever since I knew when I graduated school that I didn't want to pursue the direction that everyone else was going, because I knew if I wanted to make a difference, I needed to do something different. So, we were entrepreneurs. My family, we've been entrepreneurs for many, many years now. And so, but we shifted gears, you know, when you're doing something for a period of time and it works tremendously for a bit and then things shift, you have to learn to shift. When the wind blows a different direction, you just have to reset your sail. Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Now, I know a little bit about your background. Mm-hmm. You're in the military, or you were not actively, but you were.
Yes.
Tell me about that.
Yeah, so I trained after 9/11. Everything that I saw, I wanted to go do something. And I went with the wrong intentions. I went with the wrong reasons. I went to hurt people. That was my motive. And so I joined Special Operations, and I trained for some time. I ended up getting into some trouble because, again, my mindset was all wrong. It was not to protect and serve. It was to get vengeance. And so that's where everything really started. And then when all of that fell apart, I didn't know what I was going to do. We passed every test that we went through. We did all of that. And I thought, man, like, why would God allow me to get to that point? But then all of a sudden, that whole military career gone, you know, just in an instant overnight. So that's where really things started. And that's how we ended up getting into the mission field, because I realized that was just preparation. It was just really a mindset adjustment to be able to do the things that we're doing today, but for a totally different purpose.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so entrepreneurial spirit, I mean, you were in the military, so you kind of have a different mindset now outside of just being an entrepreneur, but like you have to get stuff done.
Yeah.
There's an aspect of like, if you're going to start something, you kind of have to finish it and see it through.
Yeah.
So when do you know as a business owner, I think I've seen it through, you know, like, because just kind of like what you said earlier, when the wind blows and you have to be ready to change when the wind blows. Yeah. So what does that look like for somebody who's an entrepreneur, but maybe been in something too long?
Yeah, I think you have to forecast. You have to see the way that things are going. You have to look at the direction that things are going, and you have to make decisions before. I mean, the time to get off the Titanic is not when it's half the way underwater. You have to see the way that things are going and be willing and able to make a shift. Anytime God has taken me from one point to another, it's never been a time that I was ready. I don't wait until it's too late. You know, you have to be able to see what's coming before. It's better to get off before you hit the iceberg. I'll put it that way. So, yeah.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
And so being a business owner, what was the most like you've ever made as a business owner, you know, in owning a company? Yeah,
well, I was in network marketing for many years, and that's how we had we were able to spend some time with Donald Trump before he ran for president.
So you worked with Donald Trump?
Yeah, 7 or 8 different times he came and mentored us in business, and we made we were making 7 figures in that industry, and what was different about that industry is I didn't have a lot of overhead. I didn't have, so the money that came in, we were able to do what we wanted to do. But I had to shift out of the industry because it wasn't that the industry was failing. It's that my mindset, we accumulated all of those funds and all of that money, but we didn't grow into that position properly. And so I started living the wrong way. I started making a lot of wrong choices. And so God gave me the ultimatum. You walk away from this and you completely, there's a scripture that says that you can't have your hand on the plow and look backwards. And so when I got called into the mission field, I wanted to hold on to that money and hold on to that industry, But what was connecting me there was also sin. It was also really making a lot of wrong choices. And so I knew in order to move forward, I had to let go of all that, which meant luxury lifestyle, luxury cars. We had multiple $100,000 cars. We had 5-bedroom house with a theater and all of this stuff. And I realized, like, what do I want more? Do I want what God wants from me, or do I want what I created with my own intellect? And so we let that go, and it took some time, but we ended up accumulating more blessing than we ever had before just by being obedient.
Wow.
So, yeah.
That's awesome. And you've been in business, 3 years now?
For Covenant Roofing Company. I've been in business for many, many years, but this industry, yes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And then what is like one of the things that you get to do or give back here locally, if you do, and then what do you do globally?
Yeah, so one of the things that we love to do, we like to make the experience with the customer not just about getting a new roof, but we love to build relationship with them. We love to build rapport with them and get to know about their situations and have the opportunity to even pray for them in the situations that they're in, because it's funny because prayer is free, but very few believers actually take the time to do it. When you ask somebody, hey, is there anything that I can pray with you about? It's interesting that they're shocked and they're surprised. You're like, you mean you would take the time to do that? So we're able to really spend a lot of extra time with the customers, build relationship with them. And we do a lot in the community here, especially with young adults. We try to get some of the young adults really engaged because their generation is deeply attacked by all different angles. And so I've realized that at my age, I can teach them, but they're not necessarily going to follow me. So what we're doing is we're working with young adults to be impactful in their generation and their community. So locally, we're doing a lot of that right now. Globally, we just got back from the Middle East probably 4 weeks ago. We preach gospel crusades all over the world, and we feed a lot of people. When we go, we even though we'll speak to crowds of hundreds of thousands sometimes, I'm still about that one-to-one connection. I'm still about, and that's the way that Jesus built his ministry was one woman at a well at a time. And so that's really important to us, is that we don't look at how many roofs we've done in a year. We look at each customer, individual customer. In fact, we even send that individual customer a video after every single job, and that video entails part of the mission that they help support through just going to work with our company. And they're like, wow, this is really awesome that we were able to do this.
That's amazing.
So, yeah.
That's so cool. It's one thing to be a business owner and say you give back, but then actually do it is another thing. And it's, I've been there, so I know it's real.
Yeah.
And it's not a small feat or that you give. Right. You specifically in your business, I'd say majority of what you do is literally just for missions. I mean, sure, you're taking care of your family, but you're funding
which
these
is
crusades.
A mission in itself.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. We give about 70% of our income. You hear about the 10% and the tithe and all of that stuff, but we give about 70% because having it all at one point in time, everything that the world has to offer, it literally took us further backwards than anything, because you get something new and it's only new for a few days, and then you want something else new again, and there's no way to keep up with that. And so as an entrepreneur, as a Christian entrepreneur, I come to realize that there's no end to that journey. There's no level of success that you can reach that you say, I finally made it. And it's a pursuit, which I think the pursuit is healthy, but the fact that you're pursuing something that you can never reach is unhealthy. And so, we give about 70% of our income because it's what gives us joy. We don't like the luxury this anymore. And we have a beautiful home, and we're taken care of. I mean, our family comes number one, first of all, but my family is all, even my son was 5 months old when he went to Africa, the first time. And so my whole family is engaged in what it is that we do across the world.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's not just you being bought in, but your whole family's bought into this.
Yeah. Because I want them to see, I don't want them to grow up selfish like a lot of America is right now. Yeah. I don't want them to grow up entitled like everything is owed to us because of where we live. And so I like to go to other places where we realize like, wow, we're so blessed here. And part of the freedom that we have here is to be able to build anything that you want to build, create anything you want to create, and do whatever you want with it. And I think too many people fall in the trap of just following someone else or whoever did it before you instead of paving your own way. That's so good. Yeah.
I think we're at a place in the country, in the U.S., as people, business owners, I think Christian business owners specifically, that I feel like God is challenging us to say, like, what are you doing? Yeah. Because we're all leaders. If you're an entrepreneur, you're a leader. Yeah. And if you're a leader, who's following you as a leader? if you're a business owner, who's following you as a business owner?
Yeah.
And what does that person look like? Because if the people who are following you are not leading the life that you would say is something God would honor, then are you leading a life that is honoring of God?
Yeah.
And I think it's important to live your life that way as a business owner, because you have churches all over the place, you have pastors all over the place, but you're now being called as a leader to shepherd these people.
Yeah.
Your employees, your staff.
Yeah.
So what does that look like? But what does that look like for you? How do you lead others, in that aspect?
One of the biggest issues and struggles in the Christian community is money. You've got one group that's maybe not entrepreneurial. They pray for blessings, but they're not willing to do anything for the blessings. And we watch the world go out and go to work and get what they want. And then you have the other portion that receives the blessing. It's interesting. I was telling a pastor the other day that we use scripture when it comes to giving the tithe and the offering, but we use Dave Ramsey when it comes to giving it out.
That's so good.
Yeah, and I feel like, we say God is a big God, God is a good God, test him in your giving and all of this stuff. We say that when it comes to receiving on our side, but when it comes to giving it out, we don't have that same level of enthusiasm. And I think God sees that. And so I think that as long as we have that stingy mindset when it comes to giving, because as an entrepreneur, you know how to produce, you know how to create, and you know how to recreate. So if something is given, it's not lost, you know how to recreate that again. The nations that we minister to, the nations that we give to, don't know how to do that. They don't have that opportunity. So if we give a large sum of money to work on a project or to do something, we don't think, oh my goodness, we shouldn't have done that. No, get back, produce more, reproduce what you just sent out, and problem solved. So in those other countries don't have those options that we have.
So I want to go into a little bit more, like, what do these crusades look like? Because when some people hear crusade, maybe they've never heard the word crusade or Christian crusade. I mean, you might have heard the Billy Graham one, but those crusades don't look like the ones you go to in the Middle East, in Africa.
Right.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So, first of all, it's tens of thousands of dollars. Everything has to be funded. A lot of these people have to be bussed in. Everything that you see, the lights, the stage, all of that stuff, it's tens of thousands of dollars, upwards of $100,000 that we've paid to bring the gospel to people across the world. They're pretty incredible, because you have people that are coming for just a desire, a hunger. A lot of these people do, like in Africa, they attend church, but there's no time whatsoever. You've been there when we'll stay for hours and pray for people. And normally the big preacher that comes in, you don't even get an opportunity to be around them. But we say we're not leaving until every person here has had hands laid on them, have been prayed for. And so that's what we try to make different about our crusades than any other place, is we want it to be personal. I think a little bit, in addition to all of that, we do work a little bit into the sex trade, where we've rescued a lot of children. In fact, one of them spoke at the crusade, and I think everybody was in tears, when that happened, just to see, where they had come from, and the fact that they're standing up there preaching the gospel. Where did you find that joy through all of that pain that you had? But it took just a few people to say, listen, you're loved. You're loved, and we love you, and we're here. We got your back. And it's like, wow, to see how far someone like that can go when they just get to experience real love, not the garbage that they were used to. So it's powerful.
Oh yeah. And it's not, when you say like taking these kids out of sex trade, it's happening so regularly in those places. And the places you're going to, they're not safe by any means.
No,
all.
No, they're not safe, and no one cares. It's parents sometimes selling their own kids, and it's in America. It's different. It's perversion. It's disgusting, and it's there too. But a lot of times people are doing these things out of survival. One of the children that we rescued, their family sold her, but it was so she could eat, because they couldn't feed her, they couldn't provide, and so they're like, at least in this way, even if bad things are happening, at least maybe she'll survive. And thank God we were able to rescue her within 48 hours of that happening. But it's just powerful though to see, because we don't just get them out and say, hey, we wish you the best. We stick with them, and many of them we're even paying for their college. We're even paying for so it's not just a simple, hey, we're glad that you're out and that you're safe now. We almost parent them all the way through until they've reached a level that they can operate on their own. And so it's you get to know them very well, and you get to love them like your own.
Wow.
Yeah.
That must be very difficult, like emotionally, as a person, to have to go from place to place and see brokenness to brokenness,
Yeah. Especially when you see the people that's creating the brokenness. It's the people that they're supposed to be trusting. I'm not even going to get into all of that right now, but just the people that are put into their lives of influence, even ministers and even people like that, people that are put in place like that. What happens is that people become vulnerable. They're like, man, this is a man of God, or this is a level of authority, and I should be able to trust this person. They're the very ones taking full advantage of a vulnerable heart. And that's the hardest part. It's like, where do you send these people to know that they're going to be safe and mentored properly when you're not there?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's challenging. Yeah. So how does, what keeps you going besides, helping these couple kids or these couple families? What keeps you going?
Well, there's actually dozens and dozens of families that we've just consistently, if people saw the money that goes out every day, it's pretty, I don't even know how sometimes we manage it. But every day I wake up and my wife and I, we traveled the world and we would pray for people that had barren wombs. They couldn't have children. We would pray everywhere we go. And meanwhile, her and I had been together for 15 years and never had a child together. And so it was amazing. We were praying for people to receive miracles for a miracle that we never received ourselves. But we believed 100% that they would receive it. And many of them, there's kids named after us all across the world, Jeffrey Battles, and then there's Tiffany Battles, like all over the world, there's kids because they received the miracle. And so after 15 years, we finally received our miracle after believing for everyone else's. And so, just every day that I wake up, I realize that God sees and knows the heart, and even though you don't receive what you want when you want it, he hasn't forgotten. And so that's one of the things that really pushes me to know that number one, God has done this for our family. But number two, the people across the world, we don't look at them as, like, for example, if we don't produce here, if we don't produce results here, then they don't get fed. And if they don't get fed, they starve. We have different options here in America, but over there are no options. And so that's kind of one of the things that pushes me. So when things get a little slow, we make something happen. We go produce a result. We go get a result. It's not because it's like, well, we can try tomorrow. No, because there's lives at stake. That's the reason we push as hard as we do, as often as we do. Yeah.
That's so true. I think we definitely live in a consumer society, and it's very easy for us to lose sight of the rest of the world that's happening around us.
Yeah.
So we are in the Dayton area. Like, what do you do for like locally Dayton or Cincinnati, the Ohio area? Yeah.
Like I said, we work a lot with the young adults in the area because I believe that, and we also, we have several working with us and we train them.
So you employ younger people as well.
We employ them, but also help them in their own businesses. We've had several come with us and that they want to start their own business. So we've helped them fund, getting their own businesses started outside of even working with us. Because I want them to diversify. I want them to be able to learn where they're, to be fit. But, I believe that training the next generation to think for themselves, to think properly, to think like an entrepreneur, because I think the system has been set up to, you go to school, and I have no problem with this, but for me, if you want to do something outside your own house, you're going to have to think outside that box. And so we've been taught to go to school, get good grades, and then go to school again, get good grades, and then go get a good job working for somebody that gets to do the things that we get to do. And then you'll never be able to. Like it's literally paycheck to paycheck. And we've been taught that that's success. Mm-hmm. And that's the reason there's so much stress and turmoil in families. And so that's one of the things that we really like to do with the younger generation is show them the possibility, show them the options, the opportunities that they have, and to also allow them to think, even greater. We also pull them into the mission field. We also have them engaged in a lot of the young adult activities that we do here in the country because, they have a reach that we don't have. Yeah. And so it's just, we not to get too into things, but we have a young man who was a football athlete. And he really struggled with some things in his past, pornography and things. Just really was just kind of broken on the inside, but on the outside, everything was going really well. And now he's speaking on platforms with us. He's ministering to other young people who have gone through or are going through that same thing. So I'm just a firm believer that when you come out of something, you might have to go back where you came from to pull a few others out of there that you were able to get out of.
Wow.
So, yeah,
that's awesome. How do you what is your take on, as a business owner, debt? Because you talked about David Ramsey earlier, and it's just debt is a part of the society now. So what is your take on it? How do you use it or not use it? What does it look like for you? And just,
Yeah, I mean, you have to use a lot of, you have to use your brain when it comes to debt. You're not going to be able to be successful, especially in the early phases of business, without accumulating good debt that allows you to produce results. Getting debt that doesn't make any sense, getting extra vehicles and doing things that you don't need at that point in time just for the camera or just for the pictures is silly. But, there are times, especially when you have a large sum of jobs that have come in, it's like, oh man, I've got to have a lot of capital to get these things done. So there's times that you have to build relationships and acquire debt in that manner. But it's important to use that debt to grow, not use that debt to just fulfill, if that makes sense.
Sure. How have you personally utilized debt in a way that has helped propel you to like another level where maybe you didn't need it or could function differently?
Well, so I met with a friend that I've known for some time. In fact, I bought our office. I bought the property from him, and so I met with him many months back, and I just shared with them our business plan. I said, "Here's where we're at," and I just wanted to get his opinion and get his advice. And he said, "Well, it looks like what's keeping you from really getting into the level that you want to be in. It looks like it's just the struggle for capital, like to be able to to go from doing $1 or $2 million annually to." To 10 million, it's going to cost you a lot of money to get to that 10 million. And so he's like, so it looks like what's holding you back is capital. And I says, well, yes, but we're growing with it. What I'm doing is I'm capitalizing with what we have and growing in that manner. He said, but to go from here to here to this level, this is what you're going to need. And I says, yeah, for sure. Didn't ask him for anything. And he just said, what if I were to pour $500,000 into your business? What if I were to do that over a period of like the next 3 months? Would that help? And I never asked for that, but what I did was I consulted someone who is where I want to be. The biggest part about this is pride. We make a little bit of money and then we think, man, we've got this all figured out. And there's people that have it more figured out than you. And humble yourself, sit at that table, have that conversation and say, here's my business plan. Here's where I'm at. You tell me what you see. Because sometimes as an entrepreneur, we get so blinded. We have that type A, I call it like in the Bible, that Peter, personality that you can't tell me what to do. I've got this figured out. This is my business. Look where I've already taken it. And it's like, yeah, I understand. But if you want to go here, you have to talk to somebody who's here and you have to just listen to what they say. Stop. You don't have to add, just listen and write it down. In fact, that's how we got started. If you remember Ty Backer, I had found that he had a tremendous business, and to look at him and to talk to him, you'd never know. But that was my first call when we started the business. I said, man, I'm going to be quiet. If you just do a 30-minute Zoom with me, you tell me exactly what I need to do. And all I did was write notes for that 30 minutes. And we did exactly everything that he said. We didn't veer from it. We didn't put my own ideas into it yet because I had no ideas. So that would be my greatest suggestion, is just find somebody who is where you want to be quiet and listen. Yeah.
Wow. That was amazing. So mentorship through this has helped you.
Yeah. And you have to be humble when you get mentorship, because like I said, you start doing 7 figures in business, you start like thinking that you've got it figured out. And that's the biggest mistake you can make, in my opinion. Yeah.
What's the goal for the business moving forward in the next 5 years? Where do you want to be? What do you want from it?
Yeah, so our goals are more, yes, it takes the finances to do the things, but it's more impact than it is financial. We have goals of reaching, more people across the world. We have goals of having a greater impact here in our own community. And so we set goals based on that. And the other thing is too, the people that work with us, it's important that we work as hard as we can to make sure that they're living good lives too. No, they might not be the owners, but we want them to go home, every week or every month to know that like, hey, we accomplished something this week and I'm able to support my family. I'm able to do this. And so we have so many different goals that revolve around others before we even have our own, personal goals. We're not looking to be the biggest. We just want to have the biggest impact that we can possibly give.
Sure.
Yeah.
There's a few people who watch this, and hopefully we'd like to get more. But what would be a challenge that you would give to them? You have as much time as you want right now to just speak into business owners, entrepreneurs, people who are listening. What do you want to say? Yeah,
the biggest thing is don't be afraid. I've been in times where our back's been completely against the wall. I had no idea where we were going to go from here. You're running a a multi-million-dollar company, and then all of a sudden, like, your back's against the wall. Like, man, we're running down to nothing. Like, what's happening? What's going on? But instead of panicking, instead of making a lot of wrong decisions in that moment, pause for just a second, because when an entrepreneur's back is against the wall, that's when some of the greatest decisions are made as far as transformation or change. And sometimes that's God's way of saying change needs to happen. Not necessarily changes in your business, but changes in you, changes in your own personal choices. Sometimes, like for example, in the book of Luke, you had where Jesus calmed the storm. They were in the middle of the storm and Jesus calmed the storm. But then you have Paul, when the shipwreck happened, when they were on their way and they landed at that island of Malta, the storm didn't stop. It tore everything apart. And the only thing Paul had to hold on to was a piece of plank or a piece of wood. So you have, yes, the storm will end for some people, and some you have to learn to get through the storm. And I believe that both situations taught both men, like, hey, I got to trust in Jesus. He will calm the storm. And hey, God sent me this little piece right here to hold on to. And I think entrepreneurs look at all they have is that little piece. The ship is gone. The boat is gone. What do I do? But Paul changed that whole island where he was at. And it was that little piece of wood that led him to that island, and the whole island was turned upside down. So I feel like when times like that happen, and they come for all of us, they come for everyone, don't fear, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to hit your knees. Don't be afraid to get humble. But that's where I've made some of the greatest decisions, when I was at, like, boom, the last second. Yeah.
Wow. That was wild. I've not heard that story put that way. Of course, Jesus on the boat comes over. Yeah. But the Paul one, wow, that was crazy.
Yeah. I've been there more than it seems like the storm never ends for us sometimes. So
that's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow. Do you have a mission, or like a mission statement, or just a life mission statement that you live by? So like, my business is high res, and the reason I wanted to call it high res is, like, I don't know, I just thought it's something similar to like Heroes, and that's why I wanted to make it like that. So when JP, my buddy, and I were making the business, he's like, what do you want to call it? I'm like, high res. Like, I knew right away, because I was like, whatever. I just wanted to call that. And also means, high resolution but the real meaning for me was Heroes. But my mission is to, I want to be able to tell stories, and capture stories that can reach lives to impact a generation, to change the world. So that's my personal, what I feel God's placed on my heart to do. Even if I were to one day sell this business or sell all my equipment, I still want to do that, because I know that's what I've been called to do. And, that's how I want to, that's what my impact is going to be. Yeah. Hopefully last generations after I'm gone, that people can hear these stories. Yeah. But what is yours? Do you have one? Do you have one for your business?
Man, it changes. It changes every time I have a plan. Every time I put my personal plan in place, God's like, I have something completely different for you. So the direction is the same. But the mission always changes as far as why we wake up every day and why. And so it really varies. But, we want to make a difference everywhere we go. We want to make an impact everywhere we go, even with our customers here locally. There's been times we've sat at their table and we were supposed to be talking about shingle selection and what color metal they want to use. And they end up in tears, because we end up just talking about how good God is, and how, and they'll go from impossible situations and I just let them talk, just let them unload. And so just being able to be there to let them share their frustrations, and allows me, every conversation goes back to the same place. It goes back to the cross. And I'm not in fear of it hurting business. I'm not in fear of it impacting anything in a negative way. I know the society we're living in today, it's offensive. It's always been offensive. But at the same time, it also brings freedom. And so every day I set out, I just want to tell another person about what God has done in my life and how he's transformed my life. And when people get to know who I was before this, I still have people, even pastors, talking about who I was before this. It's amazing. They believe in every miracle but salvation sometimes. But that's my main goal, is to every single day impact another person, not with what I've done, but with what he's done.
Wow. Yeah. So it's awesome to hear that your business is pretty much just a vehicle for you to continue to do the work that God's called you to do.
Yeah. That's 100%. And I feel like that's what every business should be for everyone, not necessarily if it's the same direction as us, but a business should be a vehicle. It shouldn't ever be the goal. It should be the vehicle, because there's so many greater things out there besides, producing. That's why every day that we go, it's not about putting a roof up, but it's about trying to reach that family, trying to reach that, because every single person has a need that they just can't take anywhere. And we love to be able to help fulfill that need. It's not just about covering the roof, but just covering them in prayer too.
Wow.
Yeah.
Jeff, thank you so much for taking the time today. Getting to hear some of these stories has been awesome. And I know that you are impacting many people outside of your immediate circle and here locally, but also globally. And that is, it's awesome to see that, because it encourages people like me when I see some of the things that you get to do and the people that you get to reach. And I know you don't do it for, like boasting about it, but if you don't do it, who is? If you don't share about what you're doing, then people won't see and they won't see the need. So it's important, and I thank you for that. But thank you for being on this podcast and taking the time.
Man. Thank you so much for inviting me. Look to do some things in the future as well.
Absolutely. All right. That was today's podcast with Jeff Battles and Covenant Roofing Co. And if you want to reach out to him, what's the easy way to reach out to you and your business? To maybe if somebody needs a roof or they see this and they're like, I'd love to connect.
We have social media pages on Facebook. It's under Covenant Roofing Company, and of course the website is coveroofing.com. So several different ways.
Awesome.
Yeah.
There you go. Thanks for watching. See you next time.